No, yeah, no, no, yeah.
Welcome everyone, Master King Chef J right here, and I appreciate you guys watching. Today we are going to be making pork chops, but not just any pork chops. We're going to make a maple glazed stuffed pork chop. And what I'm going to show you right now is how I butterflied the pork chop, and we're going to put it in a brine solution. A brine is a salt water solution used as a marinade. So real quick, I already had these butterflied. I just took my knife, made an incision in here, and kept going until it was open up. Okay, right here I have water, just plain old water. Now a brine is a salt water solution, so I'm going to add a lot of salt to this water. Now you can put as much salt as you want or as least salt as you want. So our pork chops are in the refrigerator in the brine, and you want to let that marinate for at least 2 hours. But right now I'm getting ready to start my stuffing for the stuffed pork chops, and it's going to be an apple stuffed pork chop. So what I want to do right now is put a little bit of olive oil in the pan, and I like to put butter. Onions and celery. So inside here I have onions, celery, salt, pepper. I added garlic, and I took some apples. I peeled them, diced them up, added inside. Now as I'm cooking right now, I'm making a stuffing. The stuffing. So I'm using these breadcrumbs as my breadcrumbs. And it's a stovetop. So we add this to the mix. Now we're going to add chicken stock. You hear that noise right there? We are really cooking, baby. Smells so good, so we want to toss this a little bit. And we want to get to this too. We want the bread crumbs to cook out and let it absorb all that chicken stock. Remember, always add a little bit at a time. You can always add, but you can never take out when you're cooking. Just want to absorb that breadcrumbs with the chickens. Now, our stuffing is done, and I'm going to put it to the side to cool. Now, when you're making this, depending on if you're making it for 2 people or 4 people, the measurements vary. Alright, I just gave you guys the basics so you can run with it. So I'm going to put this in a bowl and set it aside to cool. So, our stuffing is cooled. Our pork chops have been in the brine for about 2 hours. Now we're going to take our pork chops out of the brine and stuff them. So you take the pork chops out of the brine and you put them on a paper towel. Now you want to make sure you pat these dry, because you want the seasoning that you're going to put on here to stick. So you take these out of the brine and you pat them dry. And this is a thick center cut bone in pork chop. Alright, so now took care of that. We're going to hit them with a little bit of salt. Remember, we are always building flavors, so we want everything to come together nicely. So you season it both sides with salt, just a little bit, because it's been in the saltwater brine, remember. Black pepper, just lightly seasoned. And then I have this seasoning called Herb de Provence. It's a bunch of herbs and spices in here. Give it that savory taste because we have it in that brine that's salt and sweet. And then we're going to do it with a maple glaze, so we have it give it some depth and flavor. So we sprinkle the herb de Provence all over the pork chop. And we want to go a little heavy with this one. So now we're going to actually stuff the pork chop. And take a spoonful and we just put it in there. Actually, we're going to use our hands to get it in there real good. Now stuff this pork chop. With the apples and the stuffing, it has really good flavor. You're going to see how all this comes together. So we stuffed that one pretty good. Move that one to the side. I'm going to open up and stuff this pork chop. Now after we stuff this pork chop, we're going to sear it off on both sides and finish it in the oven. So this pork chop has also been stuffed. Yes, so we are really cooking over here. Now I have the pork chop stuffed and I'm getting ready to sear them on both sides. So I'm going to add some olive oil to the pan. And remember, this pan has to be hot. To get a good sear, the pan has to be really hot. We're going to take this pork chop. We're going to put it inside the pan. And that's the noise you want to hear when you're searing something. I'm going to take this pork chop and put it inside the pan. Now you want that to go for at least 5 minutes per side. So this pork chop has been going for 5 minutes. I'm going to flip it over on the other side. You see that nice crust right there? That's exactly what you're looking for. You flip it over and we're going to let it go on this side for another 2 minutes, and then we're going to pop it in the oven. You see that right there? That is the sugar that I put inside that makes it that caramel right here. It's caramelizing, that sugar. Now the pork chop cooked 5 minutes on one side. It cooked 3 minutes on the other side. You see right here, see some nice caramelization from the sugar that I added inside the brine and the apple juice that I added inside the brine. Now at this point, we're going to take the pork chop and we're going to put it inside the oven and we're going to finish it in the oven. It's going to go in there for maybe 15 to 20 minutes inside the oven. We'll be right back after this commercial break. So our pork chops have been cooking for about 15 minutes in the oven. They're almost done. Right now we're going to go over here and I'm going to show you how I made these mashed potatoes. This is a Yukon potato mashed potato. I got some potatoes in here. I diced them up really small. I'm going to take a little bit of heavy cream. It's a little bit. Remember, you can always add, but you can never take away. So don't add too much at one time. I'm going to add a little bit of butter in here. I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And a little bit of black pepper. A little bit. Now these are going to be some good mashed potatoes. I'm going to put some corn corners that I cut off of corn on the cob. I'm going to add some spinach in here. So it's going to be a creamy spinach and corn mashed potato. Wife bought me a new toy here, so I'm going to take this and blend our mashed potatoes. So right here I have a fresh corn on the cob. I took the corn, I cut it off the cob, I sauteed it a little bit. We're going to add that to the mashed potato. Take some julienne fresh spinach, julienne it, cut it up really thin. We're going to add that to the mashed potatoes. We're going to take some shredded cheese, because we are always building flavors. We're going to add this to the mashed potatoes. We're going to make creamy spinach and corn mashed potatoes. We're going to mix this up a little bit. And we're gonna let that sit off to the side. Later we're gonna add some bacon in here. Let's add a little bit of bacon now. Got a little chopped bacon that I made earlier. Remember, everything is better with bacon. I'm gonna add the bacon to the mashed potatoes. And this is something like a loaded mashed potato. Our mashed potatoes are done. So our mashed potatoes are done. Our pork chop is maybe 5 minutes away. When we come back, we're gonna finish it off with the sauce and we're gonna plate it. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna make a creamy spinach and corn baked mashed potato. So, we're gonna spray this well because we don't want it to stick. We're gonna take our mashed potato mix that we made. We're gonna add it to the pan. And I left some lumps in here because I wanted to still have the true mashed potato taste and feel. So even though I mixed it, I didn't mix it all the way. Alright, I'm just going to add a little bit more cheese on top, and when this cheese turns brown, this is going to be nice and ready for me. I wanted to get like a crusty, flaky feeling on it. So we're going to put this in the oven, add a little bit of cheese to it. We're going to bake this in the oven for 15 to 20 minutes. So now we're going to start our maple glaze for the stuffed pork chops. So you see right here, I have a dark amber maple syrup. It's a 100% pure maple. Make sure you get maple syrup. We're going to add the maple syrup to the pan. And add quite a bit because we want to coat those pork chops very well. Now, we're going to also add some Dijon mustard. I have some, pardon me. Do you have any Grey Poupon? Oh yes, I do have Grey Poupon. We're going to add some Grey Poupon to this Dijon mustard, and it's going to give it a little bit of tang to balance the sweetness of this dish. We'll add a little bit of that. And then we're going to take a little bit of fresh thyme, and I'm going to, like, if you turn it and if you run your fingers off through, it takes off the stem, takes it off the stem. So we're going to add that in there, just to give it a little bit of flavor. We're going to stir this up very well. Now once it starts heating and it settles and everything, it's going to get a little bit thicker. Right now it's a little loose. I'm going to mix this up very well, and we're going to let this reduce. It's going to take about a good 4 to 5 minutes to get the thickness that I want. Alright, so right now, right when it starts to bubble like this, we're going to smooth it out with a little bit of butter. The butter brings everything together. So we're going to take our baked mashed potatoes out of the oven. They are ready to go. If you look here, how good does that look? And we're going to let this cool. You want this to cool for at least 15 to 20 minutes before you use it. And our pork chops are about 5 minutes away. Alright, so our sauce is done and our pork chops are about 2 to 3 minutes away. So we're going to take our stuffed pork chops. Oh my God, look at that. We're going to take our stuffed pork chops out of the oven. Now we're going to baste them with a little bit of this sauce. Just drizzle it on and let it fall all over the pork chop. Put it around the pan. And then we're going to put the pork chop back in the oven for another 5 minutes to let that stick, let that sauce stick onto the pork chop. Alright, so now we are ready to plate this lovely maple glaze stuffed pork chop. Let's take it out of the oven. And wow, that is beautiful. And let's see what we have here. Got this maple glaze sauce that we made. Great consistency. We're gonna taste this. Now that's fire right there. That's straight fire. We're gonna bring this over here. We're gonna plate this lovely dish. So first, let's taste these mashed potatoes. Look at that. Nice crisp on the outside, creamy on the inside. I'm gonna taste this one too. See that steam coming off that spoon? Woo! That's fire right there. That's straight fire too. So, what we're gonna do, we're gonna take some of these steamy hot mashed potatoes and put it right in the center of the plate. Cheese and all. Right in the center. You see the spinach, you see the wonderful colors in there. Has corn in here. Right? Then we're gonna take some of this glaze that we made and put some glaze on the pork chop. Just for one more time. Then we're gonna take this beautiful pork chop right here, this stuffed pork chop with the apples, and we're gonna set it dead right in the middle of the plate. Okay? Now, I have some bacon still here that I put on earlier. I'm gonna spread it around pork chop to go inside the potatoes. Oh yes, this is looking good. Oh yes. Okay, now we're gonna take some of these green onions or chives that I made earlier. We're gonna sprinkle that around the plate. How good does that look, ladies and gentlemen? Sprinkle some chives on here. I have some fresh thyme that I picked. I'm gonna put that on there. And I'm gonna reach over here. I'm gonna take a fresh rosemary sprig and gonna lay that on top. We're gonna clean our plate for a nice presentation. And I think I want to give it a little bit more of this glaze. Just a little bit more. Just to go on top. How good does that look? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I said ladies and gentlemen, this is Master King Chef J-Rod's maple glazed stuffed pork chop with a twice baked creamy mashed potatoes with spinach and corn. I need you guys to subscribe. Master King Chef J-Rod on YouTube. Visit my page, Creative Cooking with Master King Chef J-Rod. Follow me on Twitter, Chef J-Rod, and follow me on Instagram, Chef J-Rod. And remember guys, always keep God first in your life. If you do, everything will fall into place. Thank you guys for watching, and God bless.
Out.